morning.
What is nanomechanical testing?
Okay, let's break down the words. So mechanical testing is measuring how hard or strong or whether things break. And nano is really, really small. Technically, we class nano as 100 nanometers or smaller in one dimension, and that's about 1,000 times smaller than the width of your hair. So we break really, really tiny things.
So what sort of really, really tiny things are you breaking, and what benefit does it have?
So there's a bunch of nanotechnology in all your products right now. You know, it's making them stronger. Carbon fiber, carbon nanotubes, graphene is the big buzzword right now. And the thing is, when things are really small, they behave differently than when they're big. So a piece of metal that you would make a bridge with, when you make it really, really tiny, can be very different, have a different color, can bounce instead of shatter. And so we're making sure that we know what the properties are before we put them into your device. I mean, you've got heaps in your smartphone, for example, and you make sure when you drop your smartphone that actually those components aren't breaking in a different way than we predicted they would.
What's graphene? You said it's a big buzzword. I have no clue what it is.
So graphene is basically one layer of carbon atoms. Pure. Oh, it's beautiful when you look at it under the microscope. They make these beautiful hexagonal structures, and it's one layer. And so it's optically transparent, meaning it's see-through, but it's highly conductive, and people keep saying it's a new super material, and actually it's got some great properties. And so it's going to probably make our computers faster and be able to put technology into maybe our windows or our glasses. So you can actually have things like screens on transparent materials.
Is it being used yet?
We're using it a lot, but not in the way that I want superhero skills. So it is being used in a lot of different ways. Mostly its conductivity, so how it converts energy from one end to the other, usually electricity, because it can carry electrons really, really efficiently. And so we're making things more efficient in the electrical world, but we're hoping to make it more broad range so you can make visual things much easier too.
How much nanotechnology actually touches our daily lives?
I bet you this morning, within 3 minutes of getting up, you touch nanotechnology.
Really?
Yeah, it's in everything. We don't talk about it, but for example, it's in your moisturizer, it's in your sunscreen. So if especially in New Zealand, please put on sunscreen. And so it's in all of that. It's on your razor blade, if you have a razor blade. If anybody shaves this morning, they had nanotechnology on there. We have usually a 6 nanometer DLC, which stands for diamond-like carbon coating on top of your razor blade. Makes it sharper, makes it, otherwise it's just a piece of metal on your skin. We have it in your smartphone, in your computers. It's pretty much everywhere.
It is all over the place, isn't it? So when are the nanobots going to be cleaning my teeth for me and cleaning up my veins for me and doing all those things that they can supposed to be able to do?
I should preface that nanobots don't exist yet, and that's a big fear that people have, is these little nanobots taking over people's brains. If you consider a bot to be, a self-assembled device with, I would say, with arms or legs or anything like that, we don't have that. We don't have anything that's self-propelled yet. So don't stress that the nanobots are taking over. It's more of a passive technology.
Passive in this case. You have just won this award from the Prime Minister, which you very kindly brought in. Did you bring the $100,000 prize as well?
No, it was too heavy.
Tell us about it. What's it all about?
So it was the Science Media Communication Prize, and so it's given to somebody who is an active scientist. So I run a research lab. I'm a research scientist who has chosen to try and communicate science with the media. So, I've been doing a lot of TV and radio work, and I write a blog, and I've written a few articles for publications just to try and, talk about science in general and get people exposed to some of the things like nanotechnology that I do on a day-to-day basis, and maybe people are a little bit afraid of because they don't understand it, or they're just curious about and don't know where to find out more. The problem with the internet is you can Google anything you want and find any answer you want. And so how do you,
Well put.
And so how do you know that that's a validated source? Because Google says yes to everything you put in because somebody's written something somewhere. And a lot of people write things and claim they have a doctor's status or a PhD, but it's not necessarily in the field they're writing about. And so what we do as communicating scientists is just tell the story, and we usually have our references so we can prove where it came from. It usually comes from peer-reviewed articles. We say, this is what we think and this is why. And so you can have some trust in what you're reading.
You're going to do an experiment for us, I believe, today. Tell us about what you're going to do.
Okay.
Are you going to blow up the studio or break it or something? I'd probably get in trouble if you did.
They wouldn't let me do that, no. So as part of my prize money, I'm going to be making a recipe cookbook for science. So it's a Kiwi cookbook in which you can open up a recipe, and it's all things that you have in your kitchen that you can do science experiments with.
Fantastic.
My goal is to get kids and parents to just do science, not be intimidated, and realize it doesn't need expensive equipment. So here's one of them ones from the book. I have a bottle of water, a little bit of cooking oil, and one of these vitamin tablets. You can do an Alka-Seltzer or something like that.
So it's like a fizzy Barocca type tablet,
yeah.
is it? Yeah.
I don't know if we're allowed to do trade names, but one of
trade
those.
names. Oh, I have now.
So all we're going to do is pour some water into this jar and then a little bit of oil. So you can talk about density if you have kids and how, the oil and the water don't mix. We could talk about mixing of different liquids. You can see the oil is sitting on top. And then, Susan, I'm going to make you throw this in.
I'm going to throw this in, all right?
Okay. And watch. And basically what we're doing is it should start to bubble and fizz, and it's making carbon dioxide in those bubbles. And as it does this...
Yep, it's bubbling, it's fizzing.
It bubbles the oil through the water, and you're making a little lava lamp. And this is great for kids because they've seen the lava lamps in the shops. You know, they like things that move and bubble. And you can put food colouring in here and make the bubbles different colours. And what it does is if you just leave it for a couple of minutes, it just sits there and looks like a lava lamp.
It does, and the oil has gone to the bottom from the top, hasn't it?
Yep.
Or
So, and then the colouring of the tablets.
Tablets are colouring the...
And if you do this in a bottle instead of a jar, you can put a balloon on top of it and watch the balloon actually inflate. There's so much, and this is like a 10-cent experiment.
Oh, that's fantastic. Does it worry you that our kids aren't into science enough in this country? I'm transfixed, sorry, I'm sitting staring at it. But does it worry you that our kids are not into science enough in New Zealand?
Some kids are. I meet some amazing kids who are fascinated with the science but don't know where to get resources to find out more. And some kids, it really worries me when they say, oh, science is boring. And it's because they've had a negative experience in school. And so what I try and do is show them that science is fun, and it's not necessarily about classroom science. Science is everywhere. You're going to need to understand science to figure out, when you grow up, are you going to vaccinate your children? Are you worried about climate change? Do you want to eat genetically modified food? And so it's about being aware that science is something in a process where you take data and interpret it, and, not to be afraid of it, and also know where to look if you want to look for information. So, no, there are some great kids out there who love science. Fantastic. And those who don't, we get to hang out with and do experiments like that.